Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Callahan from the Powassan Area Family Health Team, and this is the Mindfulness series. This presentation will provide some basic information on what anger is and our physical responses to anger, and how practicing mindfulness can be beneficial for those who tend to get in trouble because of their anger and their behavioral responses. So, anger is one of our most primitive emotions. Everyone knows what it's like to feel angry. It's very present on our surface level. Um, and really, what it is that it's a response to a threat or danger, whether that's real or whether it's not. Anger is a really interesting concept in that anger can be a representation of a lot of other underlying emotions as well. So, just a few off the top of my head could be fear, resentment, sadness, abandonment, um, insecurity. Those feelings could all present themselves as anger. A really great example would be someone seeing their child um, doing something really risky, like maybe they're on a swing set and they're like standing up when they should be sitting down, something like that, right? And we can rush over, and our immediate response can be out of anger, of like, why were you doing that? Um, but really, the underlying emotion behind that is fear and concern and worry. So, but again, it presents as anger. And I encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about that, there's Gottman's iceberg. It's an image of an iceberg, and above the water is anger, and then below it is a lot of other different emotions that anger can represent. So, you can check that out. And I think that it's really important to note that anger in and of itself is neither good nor bad. Much like a lot of these other presentations that I've done along the way, it has an evolutionary purpose. It's to get us ready to defend ourselves and protect us. That's what anger is for. So, anger is not a bad thing, although often we can associate it with bad, is because our behavioral responses to anger can be very bad. This is when we raise our voices, we say things we don't mean, we can be physically violent. Um, that is when anger becomes a problem. Anger is fine, the response is not fine. So here are just some anger signs. They present differently in everybody, so this is just like a very general list. But people can tell that they're angry when they are shaking, their jaw can tighten right up, muscle tension, as we can see in this person who's displayed here, her like hands are all tensed up. Our digestive system is also heavily impacted by our emotions as well. So we can start feeling a stomach ache, feeling hot, very sweaty, and then this could be accompanied with hostile thoughts, meaning like disproportionately nasty thinking. These would be the thoughts of, um, I want to hurt this person, no one understands me, um, I need to break something, like those kind of hostile, nasty thoughts towards somebody or something else. But I think it's important to also note that without expressing anger to some extent, it it doesn't just go away. It tends to build and build and build, or it gets triggered more readily, meaning that it can lead to explosive bouts of anger, meaning that, say, you were frustrated with work, relationships, stress, finances, anger, 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 and then your dog barks and you blow up at your dog barking. Even though you're not really mad at your dog barking, you're angry at like everything else that preceded your dog barking, but it triggered, and now your dog's getting the brunt of the anger that you felt towards other scenarios in your life. So, anger expression is really important, and it's just as harmful to be very aggressive in our anger as it is to be very passive in our anger and not express it but bury it down deep. And it's quite common for people to have issues in controlling actions in our response to anger, particularly with communication. This isn't something that we're taught to do in school. We're not taught to communicate our feelings and our thoughts, particularly when we're angry or having upset thinking. And this can lead us to having high emotional reactivity, meaning that we are reacting out of our emotions as opposed to our logic or our thoughts. So, here are the four kind of common reactions to anger that we see, particularly this is regarding communication. So, when we're talking to another person, the first one is aggression. This is the type of person who is yelling the loudest, making the nastiest angry face. They become quite big with the purpose of intimidation. And overall, their whole presence is I'm going to be bigger, louder, scarier than you so that you back off. That's kind of the mentality behind aggression. It's to assert power and control. We also have passivity, which is very much the type of person who continues to ignore their anger and put it aside. It's fine. Like, you guys do whatever you want. Um, but this is the type of person that I talked about earlier who builds and builds and builds and has an emotional explosion. And then, equally in passivity, what they'll start doing is apologizing for their behavior and revert right back to being a passive person. And the cycle just continues and continues. Passive aggression is obviously the mixture of passivity and aggression. So, in words, we see passivity. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not upset. That's the passive part. The body language associated is aggression. So, this is the type of person who heavily relies on sarcasm, manipulative. They're the person who's going to sit and stew in the corner and say, it's fine. I'm fine. I don't want to talk about it. That's passive aggression to a T. And finally, we have the assertive communicator. Spoiler alert, this is the type of communicator that we all want to be. This is the person who's not trying to intimidate anybody. They're asserting their point very clearly. They're also respecting the rights of others, the fact that everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and they're willing and open to negotiation, and conflict resolution is the goal in mind, to just like overcome the reason why there's conflict in the first place. So that is the ideal response to anger. Mindfulness can be the tool that helps us get there. Now, what mindfulness is being in the present and being aware of our thoughts, feelings, sensations, the environment, paired with accepting everything as it is. So, the practice of mindfulness is to stabilize the mind, decrease racing thoughts, and to become absorbed in a state of concentration using techniques often like breathing, visualizations, and really through the use of mindfulness, we can become more aware in identifying and understanding our own thoughts and those that bring dysfunctional behavior or distress. So obviously, this is going to work really, really well for anger. The goal of practicing mindfulness in response to anger is not to, again, put away anger and pretend like it doesn't exist. That's not it at all. We're trying to change the relationship that we have with anger. So it's not something that we avoid, it's not something that we lose control over. Rather, it's something that we understand is normal, it's acceptable, and valid. Our feelings are valid. Half of the battle with anger is feeling like it's not okay. And that's where a lot of people shut their anger down or get more angry because they feel like they're not allowed to be angry. And mindfulness can help us have a moment where we step back, we catch our breath, and we overcome the physiological sensations of anger, because all of those sensations that I talked about earlier are very much like go, 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 change the situation, let's fix it. This guy's a, this guy is at fault. He's the reason why we're angry right now. So if we can overcome, take a moment away and overcome those go, go, go sensations, we're already going to have a better response to anger. It's also important to recognize that anger is a fleeting energy. Now, what I mean when I say that is that anger gives us this boost of energy that tells us, move, let's like make things happen. But it's fleeting. Anger is a short lived emotion. It can't stay very long. I mean, we can very much hold on to anger for a long time in the matter of grudges, resentments, frustrations. That's fine. I'm talking about the physical sensation of anger. It's a quick burst of flame and then it fizzles out really quickly. So, something that may be particularly helpful for those who would want to try using mindfulness in helping them with their anger in the moment, they can start practicing using breathing techniques. The one that I use the most and I recommend the most is the 4-7-8 method. So, what that means is you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, then you exhale for 8 seconds. So, what that's doing is it's slowing the breathing, it's calming down, um, it's slowing down the bloodstream, the heart rate, muscle tension. It's triggering the relaxation response as opposed to that building tension. So, this is already going to stop that physical sensation, allowing us to feel like we're more in control, allowing us to re enter that situation that's causing us so much anger and solve problems as opposed to causing more problems. And this is kind of the result that we hope to attain is moving on to resolution. Whatever it is that's causing that anger, can we move on to trying to solve the problem as opposed to being stuck in it? We can feel quite stuck. Um, and having that response quieted down is helpful. And I think recognizing individual differences is really important too. Like I said before, anger presents differently in everybody. We communicate differently. Um, and resolution should work for everybody. Everybody should feel like they have a say. Everybody should feel like they're negotiating. And this resolution is still beneficial for them. So I think recognizing individual differences is really important. So there is a guided meditation that I made that should be paired along with the video somewhere. It is about anger, and try it out if you have any sort of kind of built up anger, or if you need it in the moment. It is just an audio file that you can kind of have on hand at any point in time. I think it's about 10 minutes. Um, and it's focusing very much on relaxing the physical sensations of anger. So give that a shot, see if it works. um, yeah, maybe it may be beneficial for you. And finally, here are some resources. I'm always talking about the Insight Timer, Headspace, and the Calm apps. They're great resources. The Insight Timer is free, and Headspace and Calm are paid. uh, Headspace is on Netflix now, which is pretty amazing. I don't know if they've talked about anger just yet, but mindfulness in general is going to be really helpful for that. You can also just YouTube meditation for anger. And then here are some workbooks and books that could be really helpful. Mindful Anger, A Pathway to Emotional Freedom, Calming Your Angry Mind, How Mindfulness and Compassion Can Free You from Anger and Bring Peace to Your Life. And finally, Mindfulness for Anger Management, transformative skills for overcoming anger and managing powerful emotions. So those have been very highly reviewed, and they're accessible if you're interested in continuing to learn more. So, thank you so much for listening and for attending. And good luck on your journey with anger and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.